Good morning, class. Today is finally the time to go over our Chapter 1 study guide before you take your test. So yesterday you should have completed this entire 3-page study guide from your math book on your own. If you have not completed this study guide yet, you need to stop the video and go do that first. Then you can watch my video. Okay, let's go over your study guide. For numbers 1a through 1d, choose yes or no to tell whether the sum is even. I'm not going to just look at these numbers and guess. Let's solve. 5 plus 8 equals 13. Is 13 an even number? No. Nine plus 3 equals 12. Is 12 an even number? Yes. 6 plus 7 equals 13. Is 13 an even number? No. Make sure you're making corrections on your own study guide as we work through this. 9 plus 5 equals 14. Is 14 an even number? Yes. Select the number sentences that show the commutative property of addition. Mark all that apply. Anytime that you see mark all that apply, that means you're going to be marking more than one answer. Now let's review. The commutative property addition states that the order of the numbers does not matter and the sum will remain the same. So let's find which of these problems demonstrates that. A, 14 plus 8 equals 22. That is not demonstrating the commutative property. That is just a number sentence for addition. 8 plus 14 equals 14 plus 8. Is that demonstrating that the order of the add-ins doesn't matter? Yes. Eight plus 13 plus 1. 8 plus 13 plus 1. This is not showing the commutative property. What is this showing? Hopefully you stated it's showing the associative property. Look, the order of the add-ins didn't change. 8, 13, 1. 8, 13, 1. The only thing that changed was how they were grouped, which is the associative property. Look at D. 5 plus 9 plus 8. 9 plus 5 plus 8. Did the order change? 5, 9, 8, 9, 5, 8. Yes, it did. This is showing us that the order doesn't matter. It's the commutative property. Okay, look at number 3. Select the numbers that round to 300 and rounded to the nearest hundred. Again, mark all that apply. Now, I'm not just going to look at them and guess. I'm going to actually round all of them to the nearest hundred. 238 rounded to the nearest hundred. 200. 250 rounded to the nearest hundred. 300. That one, yes. 283 rounded to the nearest hundred. 300. Yes. 342 rounded to the nearest hundred. 300. Yes. 359 rounded to the nearest hundred. 400. Nope. So we had 3 numbers that when rounded to the nearest hundred equaled 300. Number 4. There are 486 books in the classroom library. Complete the chart to show 486 rounded to the nearest 10. So look at the number 486. We want to round to the nearest 10. So find your tens place. There you go. Look at the neighbor to the right. 6. What does the 6 tell us? Well, 5 or more raise the score. So that means our 8 needs to go up to 9. And we know everything following that place value turns to 0. So 490 has 4 hundreds, 9 tens, and 0 ones. If you did not write it this way, please erase and correct. All right, let's flip it over. Write each number sentence in the box below the better estimate of the sum. Okay. When you are estimating, we're not adding these together and then rounding the answer. That is not estimating. We're going to round each of these numbers and then add them together and see if they go under 600 or 700. Okay? All right. 393 rounded to the nearest hundred is 400, plus 225 rounded to the nearest hundred is 200. Oops, not 206, 200. And so that equals 600. 352 rounded to the nearest hundred is 400, plus 328 rounded to the nearest hundred is 300. 400 and 300 equals 700. Notice that right now I'm just being a good mathematician and I'm working out my problems and I'm showing my work. 481 rounded to the nearest hundred is 500. 215 rounded to the nearest hundred is 200. And I add those together to get 700. 309 rounded to the nearest hundred is 300. 335 rounded to the nearest hundred is 300. When I add those together, I get 600. So now I have estimated my answers for all of these problems. I'm going to put them in the correct column. I'm not writing the answers in the column. The directions clearly state, write each number sentence. I'm going to write the number sentence. Okay? So this number sentence equals 600. So I'm going to write it in here. 393 plus 225. Okay? This one equals 700, so I'm going to write it over here. 352 plus 328. This number sentence, we estimate 700, so it also goes over here. 481 plus 215 equals. And then lastly, 309 plus 335, we estimated a sum of 600, so we put it over here. Okay. Number 6, go deeper. Ooh, that means it could be a multi-step problem. All right, Diana sold 336 muffins at the bake sale. Bob sold 287 muffins at the bake sale. Bob estimates, that's a clue, we're going to be estimating, that he sold 50 fewer muffins than Dana. Remember, 50 fewer. Fewer means less. How did he estimate? Explain. Okay, well, that means he rounded. So let's try it both ways to see if we can figure it out. Okay, first let's round to the nearest 100. 336 rounded to the nearest 100 is 300. 287 rounded to the nearest 100 is 300. And their difference is 0. So, do you think he estimated that way? Probably not. Okay, what's the other way that we can estimate? Good. Hopefully you said round to the nearest 10. Good. Okay. So if I round to the nearest 10, 336, rounded to the nearest 10 is 340. And then 287 rounded to the nearest 10 is 290. And let's subtract. Can't do it. $50. So we got 50 when we estimated by rounding to the nearest 10. So he must have gotten 50 by rounding to the nearest 10. So it wants us to explain. Let's explain. He estimated by rounding each number to the nearest 10. Notice I'm writing out my explanation. I am not just saying round to the nearest 10. That does not explain anything to me. Okay? Then I'm going to just write my problem over here so they can see exactly what I'm talking about. 340 minus 290 equals 50. 50 what? Muffins. Okay? Notice I took the time to go to the side to work out different ways the problem could have been solved. This is what you should be doing. All right, let's go down to the table. Here we go. The table shows how many books each class read. All right, so before we even look down here, we need to look at our table. The reading contest. Here's our classes and the number of books. Mr. Lopez's class read 273 books. Miss Martin's class read 402 books. Mrs. Wang's class read 247 books. Alrighty. For numbers 7A through 7D, select true or false for each statement. Miss Martin's class read about 100 more books than Mr. Lopez's class. Well, I see the word about. That tells me that that's an estimation. So I need to go up and round and estimate so that I can find this answer. I am not going to go look up here and just guess. That is not what a good mathematician would do. So let's see. Miss Martin's class rounded to the nearest 100 is 400. Mr. Lopez's class rounded to the nearest 100 is 300. 400 minus 300 is 100. So Miss Martin's class read about 100 more books than Mr. Lopez's class. That is true. We do not guess. Okay, this is math. We worked out our problems. The three classes read over 900 books all together. Okay. Now we have some adding to do. 273, 402, 247. Let's add them up, kids. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 7 is 12. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 4 is 12. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9. So our total is 922. Is that over 900? Yes, it is. So that's true. Mrs. Wang's class read about 50 fewer books than Mr. Lopez's class. I see about. Am I going to look up here and guess? Absolutely not. So Mr. Lopez rounded to the nearest 10. I said to the nearest 10 because our estimation is to the nearest 10. So Mr. Lopez to the nearest 10 would be 270. Okay. And then Mrs. Wang's to the nearest 10 would be 250. 270 minus 250 equals 20. So is that about 50 fewer? No, they read about 20 fewer. So that is false. Okay, last one. Miss Martin's and Mrs. Wang's class read about 700 books. About. So we're going to be estimating. This is to the nearest hundred, so that's what we're going to do. Miss Martin's is 402, rounded to the nearest hundred is 400. Mrs. Wang's is 247, rounded to the nearest hundred would be 200. 400 plus 200 equals 600. So they actually read about 600 books. So this 700 books is false. Okay. All right, next page. Grab page 81. Page 81, it's your next page. Okay, Jana, give you a second to get your page. Jana buys 2 bags of dog food for her dogs. One bag weighs 37 pounds. The other bag weighs 15 pounds. How many pounds do both bags weigh? Both. Both is a clue word that you're going to add because both you're going to put them together. Now, if you weren't sure which numbers you're going to add up, you could draw a picture. So here's one bag of dog food, and it weighs 37 pounds. Here's another bag of dog food, and it weighs 15 pounds. And we want to know how much they weigh together. All right, good mathematicians, let's show our work. 37 plus 15. 7 plus 5 is 12. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. Okay. So my answer is 52 what? 52 what? Go back to your question. How many pounds? So it's 52 pounds. I'm going to circle it to make sure they know this is my answer. Now, I'm not finished. This is where a lot of you make your mistakes. You keep it moving. We're not done. It says explain how you solved the problem. Okay. Well, we solved the problem by I added 37 pounds to 15 pounds to find the total amount. Boom. So when it says explain how you solve the problem, you're literally just going to explain what you did. Same as if your parents or your teacher ask you, well, how did you get that answer? It's the same thing. They want you to explain it. Choose the property that makes the statement true. The blank property of addition states that you can group add-ins in different ways and get the same sum. Group. Remember when we learned about grouping things, we group them with parentheses, right? Which of these properties uses parentheses to group add-ins in different ways? Associative property. Good. Identity property is the +1 rule. Anything +1 is going to equal, the identity property is going to be +0. Anything +0 keeps its identity and it stays the same. The commutative property says the order doesn't matter, the sum is the same. The associative property says the way you group the add-ins doesn't matter, the sum will remain the same. Okay. Let's use the table for questions 10 through 12. Susie's sweater shop. Alrighty. In January, they sold 402 sweaters. February, they sold 298 sweaters. In March, they sold 171 sweaters. Here we go. The table shows the number of sweaters sold online in 3 months. How many sweaters were sold in January and February? And is a clue word for addition. January and February. Now, we are good mathematicians, so we show our work. So, how many sweaters were sold in January? 402. How many sweaters were sold in February? 298. We're going to add them together because my clue word and tells me I'm adding. 2 plus 8 is 10. 1 plus 9 is 10. 5, 6, 7. 700 sweaters. They already have the label there for you. 700 sweaters were sold in January and February. Next problem. How many more sweaters were sold in January than March? How many more is a clue for subtraction, and the word than is a clue word for subtraction. Okay? So how many sweaters were sold in January? 402. How many sweaters were sold in March? 171. That's the smaller number, so I'm going to put it on the bottom. And let's subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. Can't do that. 3, 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 231 sweaters. How many more? Ooh, there's those words again. How many more? That's a clue word I'm going to subtract. How many more sweaters were sold in February? And, oh, that's a clue word for addition. March. Then, oh boy, there's a clue word for subtraction in January. So it looks like we have, my friends, a two-step problem. So in order to find out the answer to our problem, we need to solve the first part of the question, February and March. That means we need to combine February and March. So let's do it. February was 298. March was 171. Let's combine them because our clue word is and. 9, 16, 3, 4. Am I done? No. Because we want to know how many more sweaters were sold in February and March than in January. Okay, so February and March were 469. January was 402. 469 is the bigger number, so we're going to put it on top. 402. And subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7. 6 minus 0 is 6. 4 minus 4 is nothing. So 67 more sweaters were sold in February and March than in January. You have to read your questions carefully. Box those clue words so that you know what steps you need to take. All right, flip it over. Okay, here we go. Help Dana find the sum. Okay. So let's go ahead and solve it first. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. No need to regroup, right? 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 5 is 11. Oh, got to regroup. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Okay, so we've solved. So now we know how to solve this problem. Let's answer yes or no to these steps. Regroup the ones. Did we have to regroup the ones, or did we have a single-digit answer? We had a single-digit answer. We didn't have to regroup the ones, so no. Add the regrouped 10. Did we have a regrouped 10 up on top to add in with our 10s? No. Regroup the 10s. That we did do because our 10s answer was a 2-digit number, so we had to regroup it up there. Add the regrouped 100. Yep, we had to do that because now we have an extra number up here in our hundreds place and we had to add it in. Now, in your directions, I instructed you to cross off 14 because we did not do subtracting on a number line. Let's go to 15. Daniel has 402 pieces in a building set. He uses, if you use something, you take it away. He uses 186 pieces to build a house. How many pieces does he have left? Ooh, left is another clue word for subtraction. Show your work. So here we go. So if he starts with 402 pieces and he uses 186, look, you can even see it in the problem. 402 minus 186. Pay attention to those clue words. And we're going to find out how many pieces he has left. 2 minus 6, I can't do it. My neighbor can't help me. Let's regroup. All right, I'm ready to go. Okay, I showed my work. So let's write the answer. 216 pieces. I'm going to circle it so they can find it. Okay, one more page. Grab page 83. Okay, here we go. You ready? You got your page 83. Okay, Luke solves this problem. He says the difference is, sorry, I'm distracted. He says the difference is 214. Explain the mistake that Luke made. What is the correct difference? Okay, so the first thing we need to do is let's solve this problem. So let's solve it. All right, so the correct answer is 204. Put it down here and circle it because that answers this last part. What is the correct difference? So if he has 214, what do you think he did wrong? How would he get a 1 here? Hopefully you noticed that originally the tens column was 5 minus 4. So watch this. If he went to regroup and forgot to borrow from the tens place and just put 12, then he would get 4, 1, 2, and he would get 214. So Luke forgot to regroup his tens, or he forgot to borrow from the tens. When he regrouped. And I see this happen all the time. And it messes up your whole answer. You have to remind yourself, this became 12. Where did this 1 come from? It had to come from somewhere. It didn't just, appear from thin air. All right, number 17. Whoops. Sunny Day Elementary School is having its annual readathon. The 3rd graders have read 573 books so far. Their goal is to read more than 900 books. What is the least number of books they need to read to reach their goal? So their goal is more than 900 books. So technically their goal is 901 at the least. Okay? So if our goal is 901, all right, and we've read 573, then subtracting this should tell me how many I've left to read to reach my goal. All right, let's regroup. Okay. So to read more than 900, they must read at least 901. This means they still need to read 328 books. And I'm going to circle it. Okay? All right, look at number 18. There are 318 fiction books in the class library. The number of nonfiction books is 47 less than, that's a clue word, well, than is too, for subtraction, the number of fiction books. About how many nonfiction books are there in the class library? About. That means I'm going to round. Since one of my numbers is 2 digits, then I'm going to round to the nearest 10. 318 rounded to the nearest 10 is 320. And 47 rounded to the nearest 10 is 50. And I know that the number of nonfiction books is 47 less, so I'm going to subtract. Okay. And I get 270. So my answer is about 270. I'm not just going to write books, because there's different kinds of books. I want to be clear. Nonfiction books. Part B. How many fiction and nonfiction books are there in the class library all together? So I found 2 clue words that tell me to add. Show your work. So you better show your work. And this doesn't say about how many. It says how many. So I'm going to add the exact numbers. So 318 plus, I'm not adding 47. 47 is not the number of nonfiction books. But wait. 270 is not the exact number of nonfiction books. I can't do this yet. First, I need to subtract to find out exactly how many nonfiction books there are. My goodness, I hope you caught this. Oh, it almost fell in my hand. 2. So the exact amount of nonfiction books is 271. So now I can add that number to 985. Okay, so we know there are 589 books, and I can say books because it's nonfiction and fiction. All right, flip it over. We only have a couple more problems. Aaliyah used 67 plus 38 equals 105 to check her subtraction. Which math problem could she be checking? Mark all that apply. Okay. 67 minus 38. That doesn't make sense. Remember when we do our problems, I'm going to write it out to show you. Okay. Remember when we do our work, we go backwards to check our work. Backwards. So that would be 105 minus 38, right? So that's, no. 105 minus 67. 105 minus 67 does work because it should give us the difference of the other add-in. 105 plus 38, plus is not an opposite operation, so that's not checking the work. We go opposite, we go backwards. 105 minus 38, yes, that is to check our work. Okay. Number 20, Alexa and Erica collect shells. The table shows the kinds of shells they collected. All right, so we've got Alexa's shells, we've got Erica's shells, scallop, jingle, clam, scallop, clam, whelk. So they didn't collect the same kind of shells, and then it tells you how many of each. So part A, whenever you see part A and part B, these are questions that are both using the information above. Part A, who collected more shells? How many did she collect? About how many more is that? Explain how you solved the problem. That is 1, 2, 3, 4 questions in this one question. Okay. So who collected more shells? Don't I need to know how many they collected in all first? So let's do Erica. And I'm going to do it off, not Erica, I mean Alexa. I'm going to do it off to the side because we have a lot of questions to answer in that little bitty box. So we have 16, 10, 13, 14, 2. All right, so her total amount, and I'm going to write it over here so I don't forget it, 246. Okay? Erica shells, 82, 108, 28, 10, 18, 10, 11, 2. Okay, so Erica collected 218. All right, so who collected more shells? Boom. Alexa collected more shells. Alexa collected more shells. All right, answered the first question. How many did she collect? She collected, we already know this because we found it right here, 246 shells. Always be clear about what you're talking about. About how many more is that? About. We got to round, folks. So let's round. 246 rounded to the nearest 10 is 250. I'll draw a line so you don't get confused. 218 rounded to the nearest 10 is 220. Let's subtract 30. That is about 30 more shells than Erica. Whew, all right, 3 of those 4 questions done. Explain how you solved the problem. All right, I added up all of each girl's shells. Then I rounded to the nearest 10 and subtracted. This question was a mouthful. Boom. So we've answered all 4 of their questions that were inside of this question. Alexa collected more shells. She collected 246 shells. That is about 30 more shells than Erica. I added up all of each girl's shells. Boom, boom, right here. Then I rounded to the nearest 10. Boom, boom, and subtracted. Boom, boom. So it's not that this problem was super hard. It was just there were many different steps, and we had to work carefully to make sure we did them all correctly. Alexa and Erica have the greatest number of what kind of shell? How many shells of that kind do they have? Show your work. So they have the greatest number of what kind? Well, Alexa's biggest amount is clam, and Erica's largest amount is also clam. Okay. So clam shells is our first answer. How many shells of that kind do they have? It doesn't say about how many. It says how many. Sorry, you can't see my answer. So I'm going to add up the exact numbers, and it says show my work, so I'm going to do it in the box. So I have 115 and 108. Okay, 5 plus 8, 13, 2, 2. Okay. So the answer is 223 clam shells. Okay, and that is all. Now you're going to go online and do another version of your study guide for practice. Please keep this one out to help you with steps, and have fun.